Okay, guys, so I just took a bunch of liver, vitamin D, some magnesium, salt, took some caffeine, ate a bunch of steak, and well, let it all hit me now. I'm doing these reaction videos, so it's gonna be interesting. Get myself a nice peak metabolic condition for my day of hard mental work. I find, but that'd be the magnesium. I find mm, one of the best things that I can do is get myself into a peak metabolic state before doing any very mentally demanding work so that I'm really, really effective and I have more insights. It's really crazy. It's like 1 hour of peak metabolic work is worth like a week of normal work because basically, like, I can't think as clearly and optimize what I'm doing as clearly without being in peak metabolic condition. So it's really, really, really helpful. And caffeine and eating a lot of food and liver are all great things to help you do that. So you stack them all. So the caffeine makes you digest the food faster, increases peristalsis and movement of the food through your gut, and gives you a nice energy boost while also reducing stress because the insulin spike from the food decreases cortisol spike from the caffeine. Wonderful, wonderful. Without further ado, where we left off at 3 minutes and 41 seconds, into Jordan Peterson and Robert Greene teaching us to integrate our shadow selves.
To, well, let's say, lucid conversation. You want them to be able to stand up for themselves in family discussions. If you just punish them for being aggressive, let's say for talking back or something like that, you don't guide that into more sophisticated development. You see this in schools too now. You know, when my kids went to school, this was so...
My kids will never go to public school. I was scarred from those experiences. Not scarred, I mean, it's like a little traumatic, but I mean, they're just a bunch of mean assholes I had for teachers. They really had no business teaching kids. They were just dicks.
Dumb. We had a rule in our house, which was you don't have to follow stupid rules.
Oh my gosh.
That's a good rule.
But if you get caught, you have to put up with consequences. But
right.
So one rule was...
My parents did something similar to this. I'm going to not send my kids to public school.
The school had... Not only could you not throw snowballs, you couldn't make them. And so they were trying to...
And people still think it's a good idea to send your kids to these institutions. It drives me nuts.
Yeah, exactly. You should shake your head, that's for sure. It's like, because their answer, and this was all politically correct nonsense, non-competitive games. We're only going to play non-competitive games. Yeah. It's like, first of all, I studied Piaget.
Yeah.
A hockey game is not competitive exactly because in a hockey game, well, no one brings a basketball. Everybody plays hockey. So that's cooperation. And then on the team, you have to cooperate. And like, if you're the star, but you never pass, you're just a dumb son of a bitch. You're not the star. And so there's tremendous amount of cooperation in all those competitive games. They're integrated. And this idea that, you make children better by not allowing them to be competitive.
It's disgusting.
It is. That's the Freudian devouring mother, right? That's, everyone's safe and no one's going to ever hurt anyone. And
that's kind of where a lot of young people are, they enter the world where they've been coddled, where they think that there are no winners, that everyone is, it's just win.
I started a fight club in a cemetery when I was 15 and I broke my nose. Thank God.
Win situations, and that's where they get really shocked by the realities of the world. So all this coddling and this idea that there doesn't have to be a winner, we don't have to get prizes for first place, everybody should get a prize. All you're doing is setting your children up for massive shocks when they enter the world and they see that it's not like that.
Yeah, and then they get disillusioned and depressed, or traumatized by it. I mean, when my son's hockey team in his school, they won the city championship.
Crazy. It's like, if you don't allow kids to compete and win, then the only kids who ever get positive social feedback are the kids that the bullies or whatever clique is dominant allows to get positive social feedback. So you actually you make it even more competitive, but only in a way that appeals to psychopaths.
Which was a big...
Now the only thing that gets rewarded in a school environment is literally psychopathic behavior instead of performance. Or you could just have math teachers like I had throughout elementary school who would mark your questions wrong for getting the right answer because you didn't use their way of doing it. Which is really just spite against your students. It's insane. I could go into specifically the nightmare that was public education I was subjected to. But let's
Big
go.
deal, and the school was pretty happy about that. And to his credit, so was the coach. But the principal, who was this authoritarian empath, she was an awful person, I thought.
Authoritarian
she said,
empath. That's
empath.
interesting.
Yeah, well, yeah. She used
like
moral
that.
virtue as a club.
Yeah.
Oh, and it was, well, there's plenty of those people around.
Yeah,
and she said, well, really, today we're all winners. And the coach had exactly. No, it is sickening because and my son was just appalled by it. But the coach had enough guts. He said, no, the hockey team won, and it's not like the kids in the school were jealous. Some of them were obviously, but most of them were really happy, like you are when your sports team wins. And most people are generous enough so that they're able to celebrate someone else's victory without. And that's the same. I saw this with birthday parties. I just bloody well hated this. It's like, well, every child gets a gift bag. It's like, no, they have their damn birthday. Every child doesn't need a damn gift bag. And this same naive, treacly, and it's authoritarian too, because it imposes this kind of view of the world. It's like, no, it's this kid's day to be special. That's why we're celebrating this kid. The rest of them, if they can't take that, it's like there's something wrong with the way that they've been treated and attended to.
Well, a lot of my books, I've tried to remove the kind of taboo or the negative associations we have with the word like power or with the word ambition. I try and say ambition is a good thing. It means that you believe in yourself, you have some self-love, and you believe you're worth something, and you want to go out and achieve and create something worthwhile for other people. So ambition is a positive thing. But so many people are just kind of embarrassed about being a human being, embarrassed about our pride.
It's so horrible. It's like really so discouraging, but you just got to resist the slave mind. Fight.
Primate nature, embarrassed about our own aggressive impulses.
This is partly why boys are failing in our schools now at a disproportionate rate. And I see this. There's an assault.
Peterson says this actually too. He says the main predictor of grades isn't IQ; it's agreeableness, which is. It makes sense. I mean, like you get good grades in proportion to how well you fit yourself into your professor's frame. I actually remember lots of classes from college where. In retrospect, I would have gotten a good grade if I had simply realized at the time that my professor was a narcissistic egomaniac who wanted his ideas repeated back to him, instead of thinking that I would be rewarded for actually showing creativity in my own thinking. Because whenever I did that, I would get slammed. And then when I put in no effort into my papers and just copy his ideas, I get really good grades. And I didn't put it together. I didn't honestly, I'm just such a naive little freaking idealist that I didn't put it together. And I was like, wait, no, maybe no. It's just like they're all narcissistic egomaniacs, and they run their class like they're God. And their whole existence, the peak of their existence, is to have their own ideas regurgitated back to them. And I was denying him that pleasure, so they'd fail me. It's agreeableness. It's just disgusting. And then those people go on to become the people that create the new educational system. And this problem's been going on since C.S. Lewis and Nietzsche.
Of the sort that you're describing on the better part of striving masculinity. And, I had a friend who killed himself because he identified his ambition with, the patriarchal force that's devouring the environment, let's say, and that's the cause of historical horror. And you might say, well, no one takes that onto themselves to that degree. And you can say that, but that you just don't know what the hell you're talking about. People take that onto themselves all the time. And then they start to identify the best part of them that strives forward with the destructive impulse.
I identify the part of me to some degree that tries to fix health issues that aren't addressed by the medical system, with the same part of me that would get in constant trouble in elementary school and school in general for trying to educate myself on things that the class didn't want to teach me. It's just just shut up and get in your effing box, you stupid slave. I feel like that's the message of at least I got from public school. It's, ugh. God bless people who had different experiences.
Impulses of humanity, and they're so ashamed because they can't do anything good then, but in principle, he tried to be as inoffensive and harmless in every possible way as he possibly could, and it just sucked all the life out of him.
You end up turning that aggressive.
I tried to do this. I literally tried to do this when like I don't know, like after like COVID, like freaking alienated me from like a large amount of my extended family who basically weren't talking, and like then like it was just this crazy after COVID aftermath, and I was like, well, I'll just try to be nice and understanding to people. But then I realized that people don't even know who they are. So when you try to be nice and understanding to the mask that they portray, they aren't even happy. They're actually angry at you because they didn't even know who they were and they didn't even like the mask they put on. So when you validated the mask they wore, they actually disliked you because now you're just another mental jailer in the jail they won't leave because they don't even know who they are. So like, I'll just be myself, and you can be yourself, and whatever. Because if we get along, we get along. We don't get along, we don't get along. Because it's just it drains the life out of me. I mean, like, especially even like YouTube too. Like, I do censor myself to a degree because I don't want to get banned from YouTube, and I'm figuring out where that line is. Because I've just gotten banned from Facebook so many times for saying stuff, and it's not even crazy stuff. But Facebook's like the craziest censor. And even my ads, it's the weirdest thing. Even like the ads I put out for Week to Warrior, like if I say like, oh, I didn't sleep for 19 years in the ad, they like Google won't like doesn't like that. But like for whatever reason though, I just on this video literally before I clicked onto it and showed you guys and like turned the recording on, it had an ad for like Sandy Hook. Like I don't even know how you have an ad for Sandy Hook. So this woman would be like talking about like how like people dying at Sandy Hook. I'm like, but what I'm talking about is disturbing, and she was trying to get AR-15s banned because she's a commie, probably, or just a useful idiot to other people in power. Whatever.
Aggressive energy on yourself is what ends up happening, and that's maybe leads to suicide, the ultimate kind of self-aggression. I know that
Yeah, Nietzsche really talks about this.
Personally have, as I said, I definitely have a shadow side. I'm very aggressive and extremely competitive, and I have a lot of anger. So a lot of that, those experiences in my youth made me very angry. But the way I kind of integrated my shot, I'm not saying this is a model, but the way I integrated it was through my books. I kind of, that anger kind of seeps through the material that I write, and I find I can only write when I have that kind of anger. But I don't rant. I don't yell and kind of put people down. I kind of channel it into something productive and something creative.
Me too.
And so to me, that
whole business Week to Warrior is like one giant scream against the complacency of modernity.
I definitely do that when I'm lecturing. You know, and people have commented, you know, some of the people who've criticized me that I'm an angry person, and which isn't true, but it's definitely that anger.
Yeah, that's something I got to do more on my YouTube channel is let the anger come out because, like, they're not banned. I won't get banned.
That capacity for anger definitely is something that gives you force, and it can push, and anger definitely. So psychophysiologically, so imagine that this is obviously a thought experiment, but imagine you're chasing a cat with a broom. Well, the cat's going to run from the broom. But if you corner the cat with the broom, it will attack you, even though it's just a cat. Well, and the reason for that is that fear will facilitate either freezing or escape.
Yeah. We should feel very, very uncomfortable about perpetuating another COVID because I think there's a lot of people in society who, when they feel cornered, may resort to behavior that they really wouldn't have otherwise. And probably be best if we all avoid it.
But sometimes fear isn't the right response, and anger will suppress fear. And so one of the tools that we have at our disposal psychologically is anger as an antidote to the terror that would otherwise freeze you.
First off, if you haven't made money with AI yet,